My new address will be someplace on anywhere road. It's the prettiest someplace on anywhere road. And all the millionaire's money couldn't build a better abode than my someplace on anywhere road.
Hi there, I'm David Duncan and welcome to Bing Crosby, The Hollywood Years. In 1954, as television was becoming more of a threat to the movie studios, Paramount developed its own widescreen format called VistaVision. Now this coincided with the release of what would become Bing's most successful film of his career, and with the title of White Christmas, well, it's easy to see why. White Christmas is probably Bing's best remembered film today, and while it's entertaining, it's certainly not his best. However, with a great cast that included Danny Kaye, Rosemary Clooney, Vera Ellen and Dean Jagger, plus a musical score by the one and only Irving Berlin, it was bound to be a success.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know, where the treetops glisten and children listen to hear sleigh bells in the snow.
Now it's interesting to note that Donald O'Connor was originally cast in the film opposite Bing, but became ill just before production began, so Danny Kaye was quickly brought in. Donald would, however, go on to work with Bing a couple of years later for the musical remake of Anything Goes.
Card I write, may your days be merry and bright, and may all your Christmases be white.
The story hardly needs explaining, but it involves Bing being a popular singer who's serving in the army during World War II.
Well, sir, I mean that if you were in New York, sir, you'd have to pay $6.60 or even $8.80 to see hear a great singer like Captain Wallace, sir.
I'm well aware of Captain Wallace's capabilities.
It's during a bombing raid that a fellow soldier, Danny Kaye, saves Bing from a falling building, which leads to a promise to work together when the war is over.
I do a single, you see.
Yeah, well, that's all right, Captain. I wouldn't want you to feel any special obligation in any way.
Oh, well. Okay, Dynamite, we'll give it a whirl, huh?
Okay, Captain.
Good luck.
Bye.
Success for the new duo leads to Danny trying to play matchmaker with two sisters played by Clooney and Ellen, who have a singing act. Now this leads to the funniest moment in the film, with Bing and Danny miming to a recording of the sisters, which Danny Kaye now relates in this interview from 1977.
And Bob Alton, who was the choreographer, got an idea that it would be kind of fun for us to come out and pull our pants up, you know, and have big bands on our head and big fans and do the number that they had just sung. We would mouth the words and then we would do the number that they did. And Bing said, well, I don't know. He said, you know, it kind of, you know, you're pulling up your pants and you kind of... I said, well, come on, Bing, you know, everybody will know we're having fun and we're kidding. Why don't we just shoot it and see how you like it, you know? And he was rather reluctant to do it, I must say. But after some persuasion, he said, well, we'll try it. And listen, if it doesn't turn out right, we won't have it in the picture. I said, well, fine, just take a look at it, have an open mind. So we shot the number. We did it once, I believe. And at one point, I don't know whether I was hitting him in the elbow, in his tummy, or he was hitting me or whatever, but he broke up like crazy at the end of the tape. And I fully expected them to say, okay, that was fine, now let's do one seriously. So I think we did another one. And then we said, well, mark both of them and we'll look at them in the projection room. And when we did look at him, he really broke up in the projection room. And he said, oh, I think that's going to be fine.
Sister! Sister! Sister, don't come between me and my man!
Continuing with the fun, we find all four of them tucked away in a train, bound for Vermont.
Snow, snow,
Snow, snow,
snow. It won't be long before we'll all be there with snow.
snow, snow. I want to wash my hands, my face, and hair with snow.
The film provides the perfect backdrop to a wonderful array of Berlin songs, and was also the first teaming of Bing with Rosemary Clooney, which would result in a lifelong friendship and professional partnership that continued through the years right up until Bing's passing in 1977.
If you're worried and you can't sleep, just count your blessings instead of sheep, and you'll fall asleep counting your blessings.
Now all the stars have their moments to shine. Danny Kaye sings to Vera Ellen the lovely number, "The Best Things Happen While You're Dancing."
Even guys with two left feet come out all right if the girl is sweet. If by chance their cheeks should meet while dancing, proving that the best things happen while you dance.
Vera Ellen shows how much of a dancing talent she is in her own specialty number. And Rosemary Clooney does a wonderful job in the stylishly staged Love, You Haven't Done Right By Me.
Love, you didn't do right by me, as they say in the song. You done me wrong, yes, Mr. Love, you done me wrong.
There was also a specialty number written for Bing and Danny Kaye called Santa Claus that was recorded but deleted from the final edit of the film.
Santa Claus is here to pay a call with a precious gift for one and all.
Now here's a shiny new masthead catch, and here's a pair of shoes that fit match. Here's a set of stripes for those sergeant types. Here's some wool for guys who knit. Woo, woo. A pair of earmuffs when that old bugle sound. A pass to wander out of bounds. Look at here, latest fashion, governmental ration. Here's a pretty hanky, especially for a Yankee. Here's a brand new uniform, and here is something to keep you warm. Singing like a bird tonight. Yeah. And for a general chicken inspector, extra star. For romance, here's a chocolate bar. Here's a pretty pinup, I help you keep your chin up. Here's a suit of flannels we got through Army channels. And now that we have paid our call, a Merry Christmas to one and all.
Wallace and Davis are flat, you know. We've got to get some loot. We've got to take the show to Chicago or Boston.
I can't make it. I'm going to be very busy.
Wait a minute, I'll join you.
Now at the conclusion of the film, all four of them come together for the fun finale, which of course includes the title number. Now White Christmas was a massive hit when released in October of 1954, earning more than $12 million at the box office in its initial run. However, despite its success, Bing wasn't that happy about it.
Letter to John O'Melveny. Dear John, The White Christmas is making money, but it is not near the picture it should have been because story-wise it was weak. With that title and that music and the cast, with all that could have been one of the all-time musical classics of the screen, it could have almost doubled its intake. I've said it before, but this time I mean it. I'm not going to get involved in a picture that there is not genuine indication of hit possibilities.
Well, if Bing was in search of more challenging roles, he needed to look no further than his next film. Director George Seaton, who had convinced Bing to play a dramatic role in Little Boy Lost the previous year, once again was able to get Bing signed on to what would become the most critically acclaimed performance of his film career. It was the adaptation of Clifford Odets' Broadway play, The Country Girl. The Country Girl has Bing playing a drunken, rundown actor called Frank Elgin, who's married to Grace Kelly as the long-suffering wife who's at her wit's end trying to keep her husband away from another bender. An opportunity arises when Bing is asked to audition for William Holden's character, who's the director of a new show.
Hello, Frank. Bernie Dodd.
Oh, how do you do?
Aware of the drinking issues, he still believes that he can get a good performance from Bing and convinces him to perform for the show's producer, played by Anthony Ross.
Every item in this valise, ladies and gentlemen, belongs to you as well as it does to me. Now here's the silver moon from the sky up there and the emerald meadow outdoors. Oh yes, what a wealth of treasure there is to share. It's mine, it's yours. Now if you live the dream, oh how precious is an imagination that soars. It can make this world we're in hers and his and mine and yours.
Now, although the audition goes well, William Holden still has an uphill battle trying to convince Bing that he'd be perfect in the role, even though he knows the risk he'd be taking.
I have nothing in my mind except for Frank to play this part.
Oh, that's sentiment again.
What is this? I come up here with the best intentions in the world, and suddenly I find I'm victimizing
Can I get a word in?
What'd I bring you, a basket of snakes?
It's not the 2 weeks clause. It's just that I don't want to bite off more than I can chew, that's all.
You got the offer, make up your mind.
Now, there are a few nice songs throughout the film, and they all sit comfortably within the story. And a flashback scene shows happier times with Bing and Grace, along with their young son, during a recording session.
The search is through. You've got what it takes. There was no passing you by. In my who's who, you've got what it takes. The who, the where, the when, the why.
It's after the recording session that we see what was the catalyst for Bing's downfall, as his son is tragically killed in an accident.
That's perfect. Just be a second. Just hold it. Hold it. Hold it.
Johnny! Good evening, Mr. Dodd. How is my husband doing?
Well, in my less than humble opinion, he's what you call a natural.
The film moves along at a good pace, propelled by the wonderful performances of the three leads as they clash constantly with each other in pursuit of their individual goals. Bing to get another drink.
When did you get these, Frank?
Last night after you fell asleep. I went out and got a paper and... What's the difference? I got a good night's sleep.
Bill Holden to make a successful show,
I might have to bend the truth here and there, but I'll get a performance out of him.
and Grace Kelly to get back to the simple life she used to lead as a girl from the country.
All I want is my own name and a modest job to buy sugar for my coffee.
Will you listen
can't
to me?
believe that, can you?
Listen to me, listen to me.
Why are you holding me? I said you're holding me.
Now, Bing knew that playing this part in The Country Girl would be a stretch for him, and he was nervous about whether he had the acting talent to be successful in the role. Apparently, to prepare for one major scene, he asked his son Lindsay to stay up with him all night so he could go to the set the next day looking tired and disheveled.
Shut up, don't act as though I'm beating you. Shut up.
I'm sorry.
What happened?
I don't know, I don't know.
What happened after I left you last night?
Georgie and I had a fight. I don't know.
I thought so.
I don't know.
She certainly picked a fine time to start yelling and
It
screaming.
wasn't her fault, it was mine.
Of course it was your fault, but stop protecting her.
She's weak, Bernie. She's so weak.
She's driven you to drink for 10 years and you call her weak. You could be magnificent in this part, but not when she's around. She goes back to New York.
Oh, Bernie, I can't do that. I don't know what she'd do.
She goes back this morning.
She's weak, Bernie. She's awful.
I'll talk to her. If we go on together, you move in with me.
Cook doesn't want me.
I'm not so sure I want you.
Whatever you say, Bernie. You decide.
In the beginning, he was rather uneasy about it. And it showed. He was tense and nervous the first few days. But George Seaton was a wonderful director and a very warm, understanding person. And I think put Bing at ease very quickly and very easily. And it all went very smoothly after that.
Crisp as lettuce, aren't you?
Now, this bit of method acting paid off as Bing tackled all of his major dramatic scenes very effectively.
You're pretty sure of yourself, aren't you? You don't know what it means to be afraid, do you? You're right up there on top of the heap now. Everything's rolling good for you, but wait till you get a little older. Wait till you've had a couple of flops, and people stop writing about you, and they stop talking about you. Then you'll get afraid. Then you'll start looking around for excuses, too.
I'm not blaming you. I just want you to stop lying to yourself.
All right. Sure, everybody thought it was because of the accident. Because that's what I wanted them to think. Because I was afraid. Even when I was the biggest, I was afraid. I've always been afraid. I don't know why. It was good to find a respectable excuse for failure.
The land around us is now in bloom, with song and laughter and elbow room.
In the end, Bing is able to pull himself together and give a wonderful performance, and the show is a big hit, but things have become complicated as William Holden has fallen in love with a strong and determined Grace Kelly.
Garden's green, the lanes are shady, the streets are wide, you and your lady are full of pride.
The point is, Georgie, what about us?
A choice has to be made, as Bing's character may have given a great performance in the show, but could he get back to being a decent husband worthy of love?
I married you for happiness, yours and mine. If necessary, I'll leave you for the same reason.
And I can't guarantee you that happiness. No, you're right. This is something I've got to work out for myself. With you or without you. Whether the show is a hit or a flop is beside the point. I've got to find myself.
The Country Girl is a wonderful, hard-hitting film that's still just as powerful today as it was when it was released back in 1954. The three leads are all excellent in their roles, directed with fine precision by George Seaton, who also adapted the play for the screen. At the Oscars, it was nominated for Best Film, Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Actor for Bing, Best Actress for Grace, along with Best Cinematography and Art Direction.
Look, Dad, even though you were nominated, you can still talk to old friends, you know. After all, I'm master of ceremonies here.
Yes, they couldn't get George Goebel after all, huh? Tough to tie up.
I know, we couldn't get Gary either. That's why you have no straight clothes. Don't mess around with me, you know.
Why not?
In my next picture, I'm muscling into your territory.
Was that in the Seven Little Boys?
Thank you.
I heard some things, a little plug I threw.
A little broad, isn't it?
Why, Frank will love me. I'll get free corn pone all next month.
You'll get a boxer barbecue.
I did hear about your work in that picture, and I hear that you really knock off some highly dramatic scenes.
Yes, and I do it without a drink.
You know, that might be your problem.
Now, whilst Grace Kelly deservedly won an Oscar for Best Actress, Bing unfortunately lost out to Marlon Brando for his performance in On the Waterfront. But Bing did win the Best Actor award from the National Board of Review. You know, it's interesting to note that when The Country Girl went into pre-production and rehearsals, Bing didn't think Grace Kelly was right for the role. He wanted Jennifer Jones for the part and actually tried to get Grace replaced, thinking that she was too pretty and didn't have the acting skills. Well, maybe he was nervous about his own abilities and wanted someone who he thought was capable of lifting him up in his performance. But it wasn't too long into filming before Bing was eating his words, and not only did he realise what a great actress Grace Kelly was, but that he had actually fallen in love with her. Now, Bing was a bachelor at this point of time, and so a lot of people thought it might have been a good match. However, it wasn't to be, but they did remain good friends for the rest of their lives. So 1954 was a good year for Bing in films. Not only was he in his most financially successful film, White Christmas, but also his most critically acclaimed film, with The Country Girl. What next? We'll find out in the next episode of Bing Crosby, The Hollywood Years. I'm David Duncan. See you then.
And angels start to sing.
What you have learned